I declare this meeting open at 7 p.m. and welcome everyone to this evening's meeting of Ku-ring-gai Council. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here this evening. As councillors, we are entrusted with the responsibility of representing the diverse interests of our residents. Let us work together in a collaborative spirit, respect diverse opinions and seek common ground for the good of Ku-ring-gai. Before we begin, I'd like to outline a few procedures in relation to this evening's meeting of Council. This meeting is being recorded and webcast live on Council's website. Only councillors and Council staff will be shown on camera. Attendees must not make a recording or photograph of the meeting without prior approval. Council meetings are open to the public as observers only. In line with the Code of Meeting Practice, members of the public can address Council via the monthly public forum. Council may close part of the meeting to deal with certain confidential matters in accordance with Section 10A of the Local Government Act. These discussions will not be open to the public and will not be webcast. All attendees must comply with the Code of Meeting Practice and other relevant council codes, policies and procedures. Attendees must refrain from engaging in disorderly conduct, publicly alleging breaches of the council's code of conduct or making other potentially defamatory statements. Councillors, council staff and members of the public must ensure that mobile phones are turned to silent during the meeting. Councillors and council staff must declare and manage any conflicts of interest that they may have about any item of business that is on the agenda this evening. Now, I'll ask for apologies from councillors, but it looks like we're all here today. Are there any apologies for staff, General Manager?
Madam Mayor, the Director Development and Regulation is on leave and the Manager Development Assessment, Sean Garland, is acting.
Thank you. Are there any conflict of interest declarations for councillors? Councillor Sam Nye.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I declare an insignificant non-pecuniary interest on item GB2, as I know one of the residents who have applied for a Heritage Home grant. I also declare an insignificant non-pecuniary interest on item GB13, as I sit on the Management Committee of East Linfield Community Preschool, which has applied for a grant. In this case, I believe it to be insignificant, as my children do not currently attend the preschool. I note that clauses 4.36, 4.37 and 5.20 of the Model Code do not apply to these interests, so with both GB2 and GB13, I will manage it by not being in the room when they are being debated or voted on.
Thank you, Councillor Nye. So, Councillor Matt Devlin, just confirming if we can confirm it's significant or non-significant, pecuniary or non-pecuniary, and the nature of the conflict.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for clarifying that in my interest. Madam Mayor, I would like to make a disclosure for item GB13. I'm employed by Schools Infrastructure in New South Wales, and I note that there are recommendations for grants to Clara High School and Gordon East Public School P&C. In line with clauses 4.5b of the Code, this is a non-pecuniary interest that I consider not significant, as I do not have any involvement with those schools in my work. Additionally, I note that there is a recommendation for a grant that relates to Mr Greg Taylor, a resident in my ward and a former member of this council, who is known to all here. I also deem this a non-pecuniary interest that I consider as not significant. I will remain in the chamber for that item. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Devlin. Councillor Alec Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too have a non-significant and non-pecuniary disclosure for a potential perceived interest in GB11, the environmental levy grants, as one of the recipients. In fact, the recipient that Councillor Devlin mentioned is a friend. I was not involved in the selection process and I will be staying in the chambers and voting on the item.
Councillor Taylor, did you say GB11? I thought that was GB13.
GB13,
Okay.
I beg your pardon.
Yep, thank you. Councillor Cedric Spencer.
Thank you. I'd like to declare a non-significant and non-financial, non-pecuniary interest for C2, and I would not be in the chamber. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Jeff Pettit.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll also do the same declaration on GB 13 as a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest, given that Greg Taylor was a former ward partner colleague in the previous council, and I'll also declare a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest on C2. I was the mayor when we were fighting against the pro-grass people on Norman Griffiths. So I'll be leaving the chamber on the C2.
Thank you, Councillor Pettit. I have a declaration also, so this is obviously Councillor Kay, on GB 13, which is the Environmental Levy Grant Program for Wild Things New South Wales, who was one of the recipients of the grant. So that is non-pecuniary, non-significant. I sit on the Wild Things New South Wales Committee, and I will be leaving the chamber. I also would like to declare for GB 13, which also is Beverly Gwatkin and Greg Taylor, who represent STEP, which is the removal of the Spanish moss trail. So again, a recipient of one of the grants, non-pecuniary, non-significant. Greg was a councillor in the last term of council. Councillor Martin Smith.
Madam Mayor, GB 13, I will, non-significant, non-pecuniary interest. I do know Councillor Greg Taylor, and I've, in the sense of working with him in last term, but I will be remaining in the chamber. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Kim Wheatley.
I'll also do the same in regards to GB 13, a non-significant, non-pecuniary in regards to knowing Councillor Greg Taylor. I will be staying in the chambers, given that I worked with him last term, but there's nothing significant. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wheatley. Councillor Barbara Ward.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. GB 13, non-pecuniary, non-financial on that particular matter. I also was a fellow councillor of Greg Taylor.
So is that non-pecuniary, non-significant?
Correct.
Okay,
I said
thank
that,
you.
and I'll remain in the chambers.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Are there any conflict of interest declarations for staff, General Manager?
Madam Mayor, there are no declarations from staff.
Okay. Are there any documents circulated in the Council's papers to be dealt with at the appropriate time during the meeting, which we refer to as the Greens, General Manager?
Yes, Madam Mayor, there is Mayoral Minute 2, a proposal to attract increased patronage to Ku-ring-gai Fitness and Aquatic Centre, outdoor pool during the winter months. There's a confidential memo for GB 13, Environmental Levy Grants Program, dated 9 July. There's a memo for GB 1, the minutes of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee, dated 16 July. There's a memo for GB 12, Pinball Golf Club Site-Specific DCP, dated 16 July. There's a memo regarding councillors' upcoming disclosure lodgement period, dated 17 July. There is a confidential memo for GB 9, which is the NESROC tender for road resurfacing, patching and associated works, dated 22 July. There is also a petition to Council to oppose development outside of the revised TOD, dated 16 July. There is also a late confidential item, C2 project review, dated 18 July. And that is it, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so are there any reports that are just to be considered in a closed meeting and not released to the press and public? General Manager.
Madam Mayor, there is item C1, update on council land acquisitions for open space, and item C2, project review. There is also some confidential attachments for GB8, which is the main car park upgrade St Ives Showground. There's attachment 2, which is the list of submitters, and attachment 3, which is the tender evaluation report. For GB9, which is a tender for road servicing, patching and associated works, there is attachment 1, which is a tender evaluation report final. And that's all, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Now, can I please have a motion for these reports to remain in confidential? Moved by Councillor Alec Taylor and seconded by Councillor Wheatley. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Now, before I continue, we do have a special person in the audience. So I'd like to welcome Angie, who is the Chair of the Youth Advisory Committee, who is attending our meeting this evening. So welcome, Angie. Okay, minutes. Can I please get a motion to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting? Moved by Councillor Alec Taylor, seconded by Councillor Ward. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Okay, I have, there are 2 Merrill minutes. So MM1, I will move that as it has been read, I'm assuming. Is there any councillor that would like to speak on MM1? No, if that's the case. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Okay. MM2. I will read MM2 out only because I know it was a late agenda item, which is the proposal to attract increased patronage to Ku-ring-gai Fitness and Aquatic Centre outdoor pool during winter months. I seek my councillor colleagues' support for an initiative to improve attendance at the centre's 50-metre outdoor pool during the low season for swimming. This period is traditionally between the winter months of May through to September. The initiative I'm proposing would be a winter swimming happy hour during the month of August. The proposal is to allow members of the public to use the 50-metre outdoor pool for 1 hour between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. Monday to Friday, in return for a gold coin donation. The intention is to increase patronage, spread the word that the 50-metre pool is heated all year round, and support the Y, who are the centre's managers, in providing a program for HSC students that encourages fitness and activities to minimise stress. Based on current attendance, the Y and council staff are confident this initiative won't significantly impact the budget, especially as it is limited to a short off-peak time slot. The winter swimming happy hour would be a cash payment only. Card payments will be charged as the usual recreation swimming rate. All proceeds from the gold coin donations will go directly towards the Y's Community HSC program from the 15th of September to the 7th of November. This initiative provides free access to the gym and pool for local Year 12 students preparing for the HSC exams, helping to support their mental well-being during this stressful period. The recommendation is A, that Council supports the winter swimming happy hour during the month of August 2025. B, that Council staff liaise with the Y regarding promotion of the initiative. Then Councillor I will move that. Is there any councillor that would like to speak? Councillor Indu Balachandran.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just had a question on this. It's a very commendable initiative. I'm wondering, with the budget, I know it says there the budget is manageable. I'm just wondering whether there is a financial impost and who pays for it. Is it the Y? Is it the council? Is there no financial cost?
All right, so I will refer that to you, General Manager, if you'd like to take that question, or refer it to another director.
I'd like to refer that to the Director of Operations, Madam Mayor.
Director of Operations?
Through you, Madam Mayor, given that the pool is open and manned at the time, the budget's difference or significance is not that great. The agreement that we've got in place is that it'll probably be a cost-sharing exercise, but subject to the numbers and the impact that that might have, we may need to reconsider that in the future.
Do we know what that? Is there an indicative estimate of the cost that will be shared?
I don't have, through you, Madam Mayor, I don't have that information, only because we haven't done this before, so we don't know what the uptake's going to be.
Could you take that on notice?
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers on Merrill Minute 2? No? If that's the case, I'll just put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Okay. Do we have any petitions that have been received by councillors or staff? Councillor Indu Balachandran.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to submit a petition by residents of Killara and surrounding suburbs opposing the state significant development application on the site of the Dalcross Hospital on Stanhope Road in Killara, which borders Warona Avenue and Springdale Road. The SSD is proposing to build 438 apartments across 5 9-storey buildings. As the petition states, the site is surrounded by over 20 heritage-listed properties and is part of a significant HCA in Ku-ring-gai. The petition urges the Mayor and councillors to strongly oppose the SSD. With over 500 signatures, I recommend that the petition be received and referred to the appropriate officer of council for attention.
Okay, so you'd like to move
I'd like
that
to move it,
petition?
thank you.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Barbara Ward. Okay. We will move that petition. All those in favour? That is unanimous. I'd now like to invite councillors to nominate any items on the agenda that they wish to have a site inspection for. Councillor Alec Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to recommend a site inspection for GB8, the St Ives car park, and a deferral of that item to a future date, preferably next meeting if possible.
So that's the main car park upgrade at the St Ives Showground?
Showground.
Are you moving that?
Yes.
Councillor Taylor, okay. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Smith seconding. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Can I please ask a councillor to nominate any items on the agenda that they wish to adopt as per the officer's recommendation, allowing for minor changes without debate? Councillor Alec Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A little bit complicated tonight, but I'll see if I can do this. So I would like to move the following staff recommendations and associated memorandum for the following items to be voted on without debate. GB1 with the associated memorandum. GB items 3 through 7, so that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. GB items 9 through 12, 9, 10, 11 and 12 with the associated memorandums for 9 and 12. And I would finally like to move GB13 because although I initially thought that perhaps someone had a conflict of interest that required them to not be in the room, I no longer think that anymore. We do. So, okay, I will not move. I beg your pardon, I will not move GB13. So it will just be, as I said, and I'm going to repeat that if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
GB1, GB items 3 through 7, GB items 9 through 12.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Barbara Ward. All those in favour? It looks like that's unanimous. Okay, so that looks like we'll start with GB2. So I'll just wait for Councillor and I to leave the room. Councillor Alec Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the staff recommendation.
Okay, so this is for the Heritage Reference Committee meeting minutes of the 5th of June and 2025-26 Heritage Home Grants allocation. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wheatley. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Okay, now we're up to GB 13. I'd like now to request that the Deputy Mayor assume the chair for debate and voting on this item as I leave the room.
Thanks. Oh, is that okay? For the GB13, the Environmental Levy Grant Program, can I ask for a mover and a seconder?
Madam Mayor, just procedural, Madam Deputy Mayor, just a procedural question. Can we just go back to the start of the minutes just to clarify exactly who was remaining in the room?
General Manager, could you please answer the question or refer it to the...
My records show that Councillor Nye would leave the chamber for GB13. Councillor Devlin would remain in chambers for GB13. Councillor Taylor would remain in chambers for GB13. Councillor Pettit would remain in chambers for GB13. The Mayor would leave the chambers for 13. Councillor Smith would remain in chambers for GB13. Councillor Wheatley would remain in chambers for GB13, and Councillor Ward would remain in chambers for GB13.
Thank you for clarifying that. No further questions.
Okay, so with that, can I ask for a mover and a seconder for GB13?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I would like to move the staff recommendation for GB13.
And can I have a seconder for that? Councillor Barbara Ward. Are there any speakers to that, or no? Seconder? No. Okay, with that said, can we ask that we vote on the GB13? All those in favour? That's unanimous. Could someone please go and get the Mayor and have her return to chambers? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wheatley, Deputy Mayor. Okay. We're up to notice of motions. Oh, no. Oh, sorry, 14. I missed 14. Okay, GB 14. Councillor Matt Devlin.
Madam Mayor, I seek to move an amendment to the recommendations as printed for GB 14, the Middle Harbour Northern Catchments Flood Study Post-Exhibition Report. I ask that staff now present on screen the text of the amendment that I sent through earlier, and I shall read through it thereafter. I seek to move the following amendment that...
So an alternate motion?
Yeah, the alternate motion. Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
Did you want to read it?
Yeah, I was going to read it out. Yes, thank you. The alternate motion is that Council moves 1, that Council defer endorsement of the Middle Harbour Northern Catchments Flood Study final report to allow further review of site-specific submissions alleging discrepancies between flood modelling and on-ground conditions. 2, that Council staff prepare a summary of affected properties where concerns relate to topographic or drainage inaccuracies and assess whether additional site validation or modelling refinement is warranted. 3, that any properties subject to unresolved concerns be excluded from the flood planning area or PMF tagging pending review in the next stage of the flood risk management process. That improved 4, that improved explanatory material accompanying all published flood mapping clearly outlining the nature of PMF tagging, its limitations and the criteria used for property inclusion. And finally, the 5th item, that once endorsed, the final report be published and landowners directly notified with clear guidance on how they can engage further during the next stage of planning.
Thank you, Councillor Devlin. You're moving that. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Alec Taylor? No. Oh, Councillor Barbara Ward, would you like to second?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Devlin, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors. As Chair of the Flood Risk Management Committee, I take these matters quite serious, and whilst I was regrettably an apology for the most recent meeting of that committee, I appreciate the engagement of the community around this matter, specifically some of the many impacted residents who have made a very significant effort in their own on-ground observations with site-specific evidence and photographs supporting their position. The technical accuracy and real-world impact of this kind of report and its modelling are central to the Flood Risk Management Committee's remit and for Council. For that reason, I share the concerns of the residents, as there are potentially flaws in the underlying data or methodology that the report must therefore be properly reviewed. At a minimum, it is critical that residents have the confidence in the process and that reports adopted by Council are both technically sound and fair in their implications. In my view, the current report contains a level of ambiguity that risks causing unnecessary concern and unintended consequences for residents. We need to be confident that this is an accurate and transparent process before it results in changes that could potentially lead to either the impact of higher insurance premiums or added and more strenuous planning controls and unnecessary hardship for affected homeowners. With that in mind, I'm proposing the revised motion and the recommendations that I've just read out, intended to pause the final adoption, investigate the concerns raised, provide additional clarity on the survey inputs and field validation protocols underpinning the report, and exclude properties where appropriate, and enhance both transparency and communication on this. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Matt Devlin. Councillor Barbara Ward is the seconder for GB 14. Would you like to speak to that item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. How can I add any more to what Councillor Devlin has said? I concur with all he said. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Councillor Alec Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to briefly speak in favour and in support of this revised motion, this alternative motion for GB 14. I have some uncertainty about it, and I don't enjoy kicking the can down the road, but we have done this before. We've been here before on the Southern Catchments flood study, and we did go through a similar process of testing the process and review. So I'm endorsing it on that basis. I think we should all note that this creates uncertainty for all households, delaying this process, and in particular creates uncertainty for households that are not intended to be flagged as flood risk. However, I think given the downside is far more important than the upside in this process, I think it's right to be conservative and careful and to take a little bit more time on this particular business item. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Barbara Ward? Oh, okay. Councillor Cedric Spencer.
Thank you. Just a question for the mover, because I've just seen this. So essentially...
So a question to Councillor Matt Devlin?
That's right. So essentially this is just to replace the endorsement of the final report. Is that correct?
Councillor Matt Devlin, did you want to answer that question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, thank you for the question, Councillor Spencer. The intent, as I just spoke to, is very clear. It is to replace the entirety of the text and to allow time for us to, as so eloquently put by my colleague, Councillor Taylor, to provide the assurance to our community that the report in its current condition is not yet endorsed but deferred so that the investigation can take place, to then provide clarity around the process to all those potentially impacted households. Thank you.
Thank you. Second question to Councillor Devlin. Is there a expected lead time, a return date?
Yes, Councillor Devlin.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you again, Councillor Spencer. On this particular note, it was something that I discussed with other colleagues in the lead up to arriving at the wording that I've moved tonight. I have followed previous practice and left that, or deliberately omitted that detail, so that upon the direction of staff, we can table this as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Devlin. Any other speakers? Okay, if that's the case, I will put GB 14 to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Okay, now we move on to the notice of motions. So we only have one, NM1, reaffirming Council's position on Todd Sepp and addressing the cancellation of the extraordinary meeting of Council the 2nd of July 2025. Councillor Matt Devlin, would you like to move that notice of motion?
Madam Mayor, I seek to move an amendment to the recommendations as printed for NM1, reaffirming Council's position on Todd Sepp and addressing the cancellation of the extraordinary meeting of Council on 2nd July, and I ask that staff bring that up.
All right, so that's an alternate motion to the original notice of motion. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up. I seek to move that that Council notes the extraordinary meeting of Council scheduled for 2nd July 2025 was cancelled following the withdrawal of the request from the two councillors who originally requested it. Notes that Council notes that the meeting was convened to reconsider elements of Council's adopted preferred scenario in response to the transport-oriented development, or TOD SEP, a position that followed extensive community consultation and is currently under active review by the New South Wales Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure. 3, notes that to align with Council's preferred scenario submission, the Department suspended TOD SEP mapping in Ku-ring-gai on 13th June 2025 for land not subject to an existing TOD proposal. 4, notes that councillors had previously been provided multiple opportunities throughout the entire process in developing the preferred scenario to make inquiries, attend councillor briefings and participate in the voting process, express concerns that the calling of the 2nd of July 2025 extraordinary meeting and associated agenda papers undermined council's planning processes, misrepresented its adopted position and caused unnecessary confusion in the community. 6, confirms that the proposed motion for the cancelled extraordinary meeting was inconsistent with Council's resolution of 5th June 2025 and contained material misunderstandings regarding the status of the TOD SEP process. And finally, 7, directs that the preamble for NM1 not be included in the minutes with this resolution.
Thank you, Councillor Devlin. Can I have a seconder for Councillor Martin Smith seconding? Councillor Matt Devlin, would you like to speak to that notice of motion?
Yeah, Madam Mayor and councillors, tonight I rise not merely with concern but with genuine disappointment. What we witnessed relating to the calling of the July EMC was not leadership. What we witnessed was not planning reform. What we witnessed was a performance, once again seeking to hijack the agenda in a vain attempt to project relevance. Let's call it what it was. Councillors Spencer and Pettit did not put forward a genuine planning motion. They devised a political stunt, a piecemeal attempt to rewrite history, discredit this council's processes and cloak themselves in the illusion of responsibility. Hence the withdrawal of their request for the meeting to be held. Let's look at the facts. In one breath, their motion claimed, and I quote, to champion strategic planning enhancements and community-driven planning. Yet in the very next, it called for this council to cease all legal proceedings, even as the TOD SEP mapping has been suspended by the Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure right across our LGA, whilst our submission remains under active review by the department. Another example, and let's have a look at paragraph 4 of their supporting documentation, they call for demolition rights for heritage homeowners in areas they themselves had earlier in their paper argued that must be retained for heritage conservation. So I'm not sure what it was. Were they seeking to conserve the character of those precincts, or were they greenlighting their removal? Once again, it was not strategic planning, it was clearly policy on the run. Let's not also forget that Council's preferred scenario was not a closed-door exercise. It was the product of more than 2,000 public submissions, rigorous urban design testing and the guidance of professional staff. It has been accepted as not being perfect, but it has been through a rigorous, transparent and inclusive process. The alternate proposal that this council has submitted, the preferred scenario, is now before the department for review. That submission was unanimously supported in this chamber. Yet the saga that we sought to yet the saga of the EMC was an attempt to unravel that work and confuse the record, all for the purpose of political expedience. Again, that is not reform. And all of this comes from two councillors who have done this before, seeking to undermine the strategic work and who have sought division, not collaboration, but rather disruption and avoidance of progress. All councillors were given multiple opportunities to make inquiries, attend briefings and participate in the decision-making process. Failure by an individual, councillor or councillors to attend and engage with these opportunities does not diminish the validity of Council's resolution nor the integrity of its adopted position. The extraordinary meeting and the associated papers deliberately undermined Council's planning processes, misrepresented its adopted position.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. I'm sorry.
Councillor Alec Taylor, what is your point of order?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm sorry. I believe that may have been imputing improper motives for the movers of the request for the extraordinary meeting. I believe the phrase that I just heard, I can't remember it exactly.
Just see if you'd like to review it.
Thank you. Two councillors who have repeatedly undermined councillors' strategic work. I believe that accusing councillors of deliberately undermining our work brings our council into disrepute.
Okay. Would you like to withdraw that statement, Councillor Devlin, and then
in the order of expediency here in the chamber this evening, I'm more than prepared to withdraw that and do so
and then
unreservedly.
you can continue.
The extraordinary meeting and associated agenda papers deliberately undermined Council's planning processes, misrepresented its adopted position.
Order. I think that was the same wording as.
Oh, sorry.
So can we
Next
continue
paragraph,
on with the next? Yeah.
I apologise. Colleagues, the community deserves more than the grandstanding that we saw. It deserves consistency, it deserves facts, it deserves a council that acts with purpose, not distracted by procedural opportunism. To this chamber I say, let's stay focused on good planning, let's honour the work that has been done, and let's get on with the job despite what others may seek to do. Let's push past the politics and plan for Ku-ring-gai's future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Devlin. Councillor Martin Smith is the seconder. Would you like to speak?
Madam Mayor, I might just have a question first, if I may just start. Madam Mayor, through to you, to the Manager of Governance and Corporate Strategy. Can you just advise who recused themselves or declared a conflict this evening on NM1?
My records indicate that no councillors made any declarations of interest in regard to NM1.
Oh. Sorry, I got that wrong, councillors. I believe in the last 2 times we voted on the TOD, both councillors recused themselves and declared a conflict. So I'm quite surprised that they're sitting here this evening. It might be a full moon or something, but in any case, I'd be happy, Madam Mayor, through you to Councillor Spencer. Can you please advise why there's no conflict this evening on this particular item that you've declared a conflict twice before?
Councillor Spencer, would you like to answer that question?
Firstly, it's up to councillors to manage their conflicts. Secondly, if he's alleging a breach of code of conduct, that's not permitted in the code of conduct.
Not at all, Councillor Spencer.
Thank you, Councillor Spencer.
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to clarify, I would not do such a thing. I was just merely questioning and just not quite understanding it, so I just thought that they Councillor Spencer would have recused himself this evening. On that matter, I will wait for further debate. I will speak to it later. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other speakers? Oh, Councillor Alec Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to speak in favour of this motion, these recommendations tonight, and I want to wholeheartedly agree with the sentiment of Councillor Devlin's final paragraph in which he said, let's stay focused on good planning, let's honour the work that's been done and let's get on with the job. I strongly endorse that sentiment. Let's get on with this.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Any other speakers? Councillor Jeff Pettit.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move an amendment, and staff have that. If they could bring it up, please.
Okay. We'll just wait till that comes up.
And while that's now up on the board, it's probably wise that I read it out,
Yes,
because
please.
there's a fair amount of words there. Thank you, Madam Mayor. The amendment is Part 1, a strategic planning framework for Ku-ring-gai. 1. Redirection of council efforts towards proactive planning. To foster transparent and effective governance, it is proposed that council discontinues the current legal proceedings concerning planning matters. Resources and efforts should be redirected towards the development of new Comprehensive Development Control Plan, DCP, and Local Environmental Plan, LEP, proposals for the key town centres of Turramurra, Gordon and Linfield. Prioritising strategic, holistic planning over reactive legal disputes demonstrates responsible leadership and a commitment to achieving meaningful and sustainable outcomes for the community. 2. Key enhancements to strategic planning controls. A well-structured planning framework must provide consistency while retaining the flexibility to address site-specific nuances. We propose the following key enhancements. 1. State Significant Development, SSD applications. Ensure that all SSD proposals are subject to robust council oversight to maintain design quality and alignment with community objectives. This restores local planning authority, guaranteeing that major developments exhibit design excellence and are responsive to local needs. 2. Transport-orientated development, TOD-CEP. Uphold the core principles of the original TOD State Environment Planning Policy, SEP, framework to encourage well-integrated development, subject to the specific prohibitions and adjustments outlined in section 4 of this motion. 3. Apartment setbacks. Implement uniform setback requirements for apartment developments across the local government area, with clearly specified exceptions to accommodate unique site conditions. This measure will reduce administrative burden and uncertainty, streamline the approval process and lowering costs for both developers and the community. 3. Heritage conservation and property rights. A balanced approach to heritage is required, protecting property owners' rights while ensuring responsible management of heritage assets. Point 1. Equitable process for heritage properties. Under the TOD-CEP, owners of heritage-listed properties, isolated heritage properties that become surrounded by high-density apartment developments should be considered for delisting to prevent owners from bearing the significant cost and burden of individual legal action. 2. Financial relief and targeted consultation. Point A. Council shall waive planning proposal fees for all heritage-listed properties that have been rezoned under Council's preferred alternative housing scenario from their previous LEP to a 2015 classification, particularly those now within designated TOD high-density precincts, where the Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure has advised that a full planning proposal is required to amend heritage status. B. Council will engage in targeted consultation with affected heritage homeowners, acknowledging that public consultation is insufficient, where a specific class of resident is disproportionately impacted. 4. Prohibitions and adjustments for balanced growth. Point 1. A thoughtful balance between urban development and residential character is crucial for maintaining Ku-ring-gai's identity. 2. Preserving the residential character of Eastern Ku-ring-gai. Prohibit, where possible and appropriate, the construction of new apartment developments on the eastern side of the railway line in Roseville, Linfield, Killara and Gordon, to preserve the established low-density residential landscape. 3, incentivising high-quality detached residential development. To foster high-quality housing, the floor space ratio, FSR, for luxury single dwelling homes should be increased from the current 0.3 to 1 to 0.45 to 1, encouraging superior architectural outcomes that enhance neighbourhood character. 5, relationship to the GB1 proposal. This motion is intended to supplement, not replace, the GB1 proposal, which was developed as an alternative to the government's TODCEP. Given the government's indicative 3-month review period for Council's alternative proposal, there is a strategic opportunity to prepare and integrate the new DCP LEP provisions concurrently. This parallel process would maximise efficiency and ensure alignment between all planning instruments. Part 2, the future of Council's own land in the Turramurra Community Hub. Ku-ring-gai's planning strategy must be comprehensive, addressing the needs of all wards rather than implementing fragmented developments. Growth and infrastructure must be considered collectively to ensure a sustainable and equitable future for the entire community. Without a municipality-wide vision, planning risks to be driven by isolated interests, undermining long-term strategic coherence. Our primary objective is to avoid the delays and feasibility issues that have stalled past projects and to ensure tangible progress. Therefore, move A, that a staff report be presented to Council detailing the options available to implement these goals as listed in Part 1, a strategic planning framework for Ku-ring-gai. B, that Council resolves to commission a report on the future of the Council-owned land in the Turramurra Community Hub, with the report and its scope adhering to the following directives. 1, multiple options required. A, the report must present several distinct options for the site's future. The submission of a single preferred option will be considered insufficient. 2, inclusion of an outright sale option. A, one of the core options presented must be the straightforward sale of the council-owned land. It is critical to learn from the challenges of projects like the Linfield Hub, where bundling community facilities with the development created significant financial and logistic hurdles. 3, simplified development scope. A, to ensure project viability, the options presented should not be encumbered with complex ancillary facilities such as a new library, playground or a childcare centre. While the inclusion of additional public parking is a practical necessity that can be considered, the funds realised from a potential sale could be more efficiently used to build or upgrade community facilities elsewhere in a targeted manner. And 4, commitment to a project timeline. The motion must include a firm commitment to a project timeline that extends beyond the mere delivery of a report. Council must ensure that this project advances to a tangible stage, such as proceeding to public tender before the conclusion of its current council term. That's the amendment, and I seek a seconder.
Yes, I seek a seconder. I think I have Councillor Alec Taylor as the next one. Okay.
I've got
Councillor-
some questions.
Yeah. Councillor Cedric Spencer will be seconding. Now, before we continue, councillors, I'd like to adjourn for 15 minutes to allow councillors time to read and absorb and to seek advice from the corporate lawyer regarding the content of the amendment. There is a lot of detail here, so I think we need some time. So the time is now 7:50. we will return at 8:05. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. We will continue. I would just like councillors to know that I will not be accepting the amendment due to the lack of notice. I do refer to clause 9.2a, which is already or directly relates to a matter that is already before the council, which is under the consideration of council meeting. So I'd like to resume debate on the original motion. Now, who would like to speak on the original motion? We're back to that. All the lights are off. Councillor Sam Nye.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I'd like to say that as an elected councillor, I, along with every other councillor here, have the right to have our own opinions, to talk to residents, to represent them, and do our best to ensure that those considerations are factored into decisions made by council. And as such, Councillors Pettet and Spencer have the right to have an opinion, to talk to residents, and seek to do their best to get a good outcome for Ku-ring-gai's residents. Having said that, I believe that time has already passed. So for the last 18 months, we've extensively gone through transport-oriented development, alternative scenarios, and various rounds of community consultation, all of that kind of stuff. A lot of that particularly took shape this year in 2025 with the most recent rounds of consultation. And as many councillors here know, I do not agree with everything that was presented. Whether it was behind the scenes at a councillor briefing or the content of a council report or whatever it is, I do not agree with everything, and the councillors here know that. But the thing is, I took the opportunity as a councillor to explore these issues, to discuss it with other councillors and with council staff, to explore whether some of our proposals were consistent with the planning principles that we had laid out, and whether it was consistent with the desires of our residents as well as the objectives of the state government. And sometimes it did lead to small adjustments of the proposals. And at other times, I didn't get what I believed our residents wanted. Having said that, I participated in that process from end to end. If there was a councillor briefing, I was there. If there was a decision to be made at council, I was there. And I think it's very important that if a councillor has a view, is representing their residents, wants to shape things for the betterment of the community, that they that they participate in the democratic process as and when it happens. Now, a lot of that happened this year, and I note that these decisions about the TOD, a lot of them happened on, for example, the 18th of March, the 22nd of May, the 5th of June, and at all of these meetings, I was there. At all of these meetings, I had held discussions with councillors at, designated councillor briefings, all those sorts of things. I had read resident emails. I had looked at what the surveys said, the outputs, all of that. I had made an informed decision. And that is my expectation of every councillor, that if they do have their own opinion, that they participate in the democratic process. So going back to where we are now, look, there are other councillors who share some concerns even in line with my own. But that time has passed. The time to debate these things, the time to come to a decision was in the previous few months. If other councillors aren't around to do these sorts of things, well then that's potentially to the detriment of the community. But it's none of my business. I've done the best that I can as a councillor to stand up for the community. I'm proud of the way we've reached the alternate Todd proposal, and I support the council resolutions on the 22nd of May and the 5th of June, and I encourage all other councillors to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nye. Councillor Martin Smith.
Madam Mayor, unfortunately it doesn't appear that these two councillors listened to the preamble of Councillor Devlin, because it was clearly just another stunt here this evening, which is pretty disappointing for all of us here tonight. It is also very obvious both Councillor Spencer and Councillor Pettit did not attend any of the meetings. They recused themselves and they decided that they wouldn't participate in making probably one of the biggest decisions that's been made in Ku-ring-gai for quite a number of years. For these councillors then to put up something which you could only say or think that ChatGPT pushed it out in some regurgitated form that was hardly even able to be followed, it's disappointing that we need to address this matter again this evening. I would truly encourage Councillor Spencer and Pettit to adhere to their duties and listen to what has been said, listen to the community, represent the community, attend the meetings, decide whether or not you have a conflict or you don't have a conflict, and make a decision that helps Ku-ring-gai move forward. I believe that all the other 8 councillors here this evening made a decision that this rubbish that was put up this evening, that it was not possible, it was Mary Poppins at best, and that I think that they clearly need to apologise to the community for disrupting what is considered a very important matter that affects a lot of people in this community. I think it's very important that all the councillors here this evening stand up for what they believe in and be behind what they are and be true to themselves. For those reasons, I hope that we get the support for what we've put up this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Indu Balachandran.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will speak in support of the motion. I think Councillor Nye and Councillor Taylor spoke eloquently to what we want as councillors for this community. Councillors had ample opportunity to consult, to consider and put forward what we were hearing from residents. The process ran over 8 months, and to be honest, the calling of the EMC caused resident confusion, which is a problem, and occupied council time. As a councillor, I really do believe our focus should simply be on building good process and outcomes and progressing delivery to the community. This really didn't happen in any way by what came to pass, or actually didn't come to pass earlier this month. And I would just like us as a council to get on with getting things done for Ku-ring-gai together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Balachandran. Councillor Barbara Ward.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Here we are again. The Todd has presented ongoing challenges for both council and residents, with many continuing to experience distress, particularly for residents who are impacted and businesses alike. The introduction of the proposed EMC added to community concern and confusion, some mistakenly giving the impression that council was revisiting its previous resolved position. This misconception has further complicated an already sensitive issue in our community. We as councillors have a great responsibility, and we have an accountability to our residents. Ultimately, councillors play a pivotal role in balancing operational support for council with proactive leadership, and that was not a good leadership that protects the advances, the well-being of the community while maintaining the integrity of the council operations and reinforcing public trust in the institution's leadership. This responsibility needs to be taken seriously when approaching decisions that have already been taken after a long and careful consideration. I agree, each councillor has their own prerogative to bring a motion to the council. but I urge councillors to think carefully about the impact this has on residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Are there any other speakers? Okay. Oh, Councillor Jeff Pettit.
I know you've missed me talking for the last few months, haven't you, one and all? Question to Councillor Devlin. It's been a few months and Ange wanted me to ask you the question. We haven't done our normal breakfast catch-up and it's our shout, so if you want to let myself or Ange know when you want to do that again, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Madam Mayor.
Yeah, I'm not going to allow that question. Thank you.
I'm sure Councillor Devlin's taken that on notice. Anyway, why are we here this evening? Well, Councillor Smith and Devlin were hot on the keyboard after the meeting that never happened. We didn't actually have to have any of this come backwards here, did we? Really didn't need to have anything, because the meeting never happened. We've agonised over the meeting that never was. That's great, okay, but we didn't have to revisit it this evening. That wouldn't have given us the opportunity to put up an amendment, which in that amendment was only just asking for 2 reports. Not the end of the world, nothing big deal. Was a lot there to digest, but c'est la vie. We did have the Turramurra hub in it, but c'est la vie. We may never revisit the Turramurra hub again, or wish to put up a motion in regards to that. So, did we need to have this NM put on the agenda? Probably not. We could have just waved it away. End of story, the meeting that never happened. Was there a lot of angst in the community? I didn't get thousands of emails. Is the process perfect where we landed with our scenario? No. Did we have winners and losers? Yes. Was everybody happy? No. Did we get thousands of emails saying, well done, councillors? Did we get thousands of congratulating us? No. Did we get hundreds congratulating us? No. A lot of unhappy residents there. We actually got a lot of petitions. Not happy. Not happy, Jan, out there in the community. So to really say, well, we've done our best, well, I don't know, maybe we'll leave that up to the individual residents to feel whether they've got the best result with council's preferred scenario. I think you might find that there are still a lot of unhappy people out there. So, we can all move on to this little gem that was put up by Councillors Devlin and Smith. And I appreciate the collaboration that you guys have come together and put it there. It actually gave us the opportunity to formulate an amendment. So without your collaboration, we would never have actually worked on an amendment. So thank you both. It's greatly appreciated. I know that there are those that may not wish to hear my voice or hear my opinion, and c'est la vie. If councillors feel that other councillors are not doing their job, or you don't like them or don't respect their opinion, I forgive you. I understand that we all have different opinions about each individuals. And if anybody has any darkness or angst or feelings of aggression to other councillors, I forgive you. I hope that you find inner peace, that we can actually work collaboratively on these various issues.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Smith, what is your point of order?
We're in council chambers. We're not in a church.
That's not a point of order.
I'm seeking forgiveness.
Can we... Yeah, it's not a point of order. Can you just continue, Councillor Pettit?
It's okay. I forgive you, Councillor Smith. It's all right. It's quite all right. No dramas whatsoever. Anyway, in the spirit of collaboration, we should be able to work collaboratively with whoever we choose and not have that held against us that we collaborated with the wrong councillor or the wrong resident, which does tend to happen at times. And hopefully that won't happen in the future. Here's the Todd scenario that we've put up. Council's preferred option, the best. 6 stories, 8 stories was bad, 25 stories good, 15 stories good, 22,000 odd dwellings bad, council's increased numbers, good, interesting. What we failed to realise, all those arguments that we put forward when the state government's proposal come out, such as traffic congestion, the lack of infrastructure, the lack of schools, the need for curb and gutting, sewage, guess what? Those issues are still there under council's scenario. They didn't just magically disappear. They are still there. Aren't they, guys? They are still there. But nobody says a word about those anymore. Because it's all good because council's done their own scenario. So remember, 6 of 8 stories was bad, 25 stories and 15 stories was good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pettit. Are there any other speakers before I call on Councillor Devlin, who is the mover of the motion, if he would like to sum up? No? Councillor Devlin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Reverend Councillor, for your sermon. I would just like to sum up by noting that I don't believe that the NM provided the opportunity for councillors to work together with an alternate planning concept. I think that was well and truly established by the intent for the extraordinary meeting in the first instance. I would like to thank all of the councillors that I've worked with on the amendments tonight, and for and just highlight that I appreciate their input, their judgment and their reflections on what was noted on the notice of motion. And I believe that where we've arrived tonight is something that highlights to the community that the avenue that some sort was not the best avenue to take, and that, given the benefit of hindsight, we would like to record this resolution as a correction of the record to draw a line under this matter once and for all, to provide certainty and comfort to all of the residents in the LGA who can now commence, or resume normal life without this hanging over their head as a grey cloud. I would like to also acknowledge the incredible amount of work that staff have done, not just in arriving at the text that we see this evening, but also throughout the duration of the entire process of the TODSET. It is a proposal that many of us have acknowledged has undergone many iterations, that will not satisfy every individual in the LGA, but that we have sought collaboratively to do our best. And I think that at the end of the day, we've put forward the best of a bad bunch in order to deal in good faith with our friends in Macquarie Street. And finally, and whilst I appreciate the question itself may have been ruled out of order, I came into this chamber to work collaboratively and constructively wherever possible with all councillors. And I made a comment to all returned councillors and my fellow new councillor that I'm going into this term of council without trusting anybody, and that trust needs to be built both by me with those individuals I work with in this chamber, but also by them with me. And it has been a refreshing process to be able to rebuild from a baseline, a professional and courteous level of trust with so many in this room. And I hope that in that regard, that it is in good faith and with good spirit. The question that was ruled out of order by the Mayor is in fact true. And if it is the case, Councillor Pettit, I will meet with you and your delightful wife Ange any day of the week at any location to discuss the Turramurra Hub, because it is 20 years overdue. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Devlin. Now, I will put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Pettit, Councillor Ward, Councillor Balachandran, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Devlin, Councillor Nye, Councillor Wheatley, Councillor Smith, Councillor Kay. All those against? Councillor Spencer. The vote being 9-1, it is carried. We will move on to confidential matters. So we have two confidential matters, which are C1 and C2. So in accordance with Section 10A of the Local Government Act and the resolution of Council earlier this evening, the items named C1 and C2 are confidential and discussion will be closed to the public. Now, can I have a motion to move into a confidential session for those two items? Moved by Councillor Wheatley, seconded by Councillor Balachandran. All those in favour? That is unanimous. During closed session, Council resolved on two items in confidential. So C1, that the motion was that Council proceed in the manner outlined in the note signed by the Mayor during the meeting, which was voted on unanimously. C2, that Council proceeded in the manner outlined in the note signed by the Mayor during the meeting, also voted on unanimously. I will now move to business without notice. Is there any business without notice subject to clause 9.3 of the Code of Meeting Practice? Looks like there is none. Just clarifying, we do have one site inspection, which was GB8 for the main car park upgrade at St Ives Showground. That if I can ask the council staff that a date and time will be determined in the near future and to advise councillors. And we're now up to the conclusion of the meeting. There being no further business, I'd like to thank councillors and staff. I'd also like to thank members of the public for their attendance and patience this evening. The webcast of this meeting will be available on the council website and minutes will be published within the next 2 working days. I declare the meeting closed at 10:23 p.m. Thank you.